Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. Man, I appreciate you for joining me. And we're going to dive in, man. There's been a lot of conversation over the last few days about about Stephen A. Smith, man. Stephen A. Smith, he actually did what some would call the unthinkable. He went on Fox News and had something critical to say about a Democrat. They said, "How dare you, sir? How dare you?" But we're going to dive in. Before I get going here, let me not forget to ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. You can also hit the little notification button there. So every time one of these videos drop, you'll know to come check one out. But like, subscribe, and don't forget to comment. But let's dive in. So we're going to watch a few videos. This first one is Stephen A's video where he is showing what he said in an effort to begin to defend himself. So let's check out what he said, or at least what he said on Fox News.
Tell you something. As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity.
So I'm going to let him finish. But here's what I'll say about that. You know, I'm going to be upfront and honest with you. I really don't buy this black explosion of support for Donald Trump, okay? I don't see him getting any more of a percentage than he would have gotten the previous time. I get what the polls, what the news is saying and all of that, but I don't see it happening. I see him getting the same basic percentage. Maybe he gets 1 or 2% more. I'll even give him 3%. But it's not finna be no 30-40% jump in black support for the Republican Party. I just don't agree with that. As far as what Stephen A. is talking about here, and him relating, or black people relating to him because the justice system is doing him dirty in some people's opinion. I don't know that. I don't know that the black people who support him, I'm sure that there's some, but the people who I think are at least listening to, I don't even know if they're listening to Donald Trump or at least listening to Republicans more. I don't think it's because he's being wronged or by some people's he's been wronged by the justice system right now. I don't think that's the driving force. Again, I think policy is a driving force. I think his opponent is a driving force. But I don't think the fact that he seems to be railroaded by the government is what's quote unquote driving this black support. I have to disagree with him on that.
You may emanate from. We relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have. And that's what he articulated. Needless to say, people were in a tizzy over that. And why were they in a tizzy over that exactly?
So here is he. Like I said, he's responding to it. Before I get to his response, I want to show you some of the other reactions that he got based on that same interview. I'm going to go to this young lady first. And so, actually, I'm going to go to Roland Martin first. So Roland saw this particular, he decided to respond to this particular response on Sean Hannity the other day. Let's play this clip.
All right. Now, last night we showed you a clip from my next guest who has a message for the Democratic Party. Here's a reminder.
It's much ado about nothing. To my liberal friends out there, all you're doing is showing that you're scared you can't beat them on the issues and the merits.
Hi there, I'm Jeff Foxworthy, and over the course of my career, I've been asked to endorse a lot of things, and to be
Here now with more ESPN host, the one, the only. He hates to admit he's a friend of mine. You can admit it. Just say it. My friend Stephen A. Smith is here.
Of course we're
I'll
friends,
be asking
man.
Anyway, great to have you. I thought that was gutsy. I kind of like your podcast because you go off into, other topics besides the area of expertise that you're in, which is sports. You said that. First, the question I have is, what was the reaction to that?
Obviously, I took a lot of heat. A lot of people didn't like the fact that I said it. They wish that I had it. And when I give a damn, I'll let you know. I don't care. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak what I believe to be true. And when I think about Donald Trump, I think about this case in New York. I mean, I'm looking at the Democrats right now. And again, primarily, I have voted Democrat throughout my life, but I'm utterly disgusted with what I'm seeing because it seems to me that they're trying to use the law in the courts. They've clearly politicized this thing with Donald Trump because they can't come up with a strategy to offset the momentum he's clearly gained. In at least 5 polls, he's up. He's up in the polls over Biden, at least 5 polls that I counted. That's the reality of the situation. Despite the counts against them, the indictments against them, being impeached twice and all of this other stuff, he is the presumptive GOP nominee. And you don't seem to have the issues in your favor, you believe. So because of that, you're going to manipulate the system as best as you possibly can to avoid him possibly running for re-election again.
So, little bit of a different clip from the show that Roland's responding to here. But the sentiment is the same. His sentiment is, number one, Donald Trump is being railroaded by Democrats right now. Okay? He has, 91 indictments that he's fighting, right? We saw that he lost his civil trial with the defamation case against E. Jean Carroll. We saw that he lost his civil trial with the state of New York, basically claiming that he committed fraud with his properties. He's in the midst of beginning the trial for the hush money trial, as they're calling it, for allegedly paying off the lady Stormy Daniels, and of course Georgia and down in Georgia, we still got that going on. He hasn't quite come up to his particular court date yet, but they're trying to get him for basically defrauding the election for telling the Georgia state rep at the time to go find him some votes. So clearly the machine, I call it the machine, because I don't think you can get this many cases going on one particular individual that simultaneously without having a machine behind you, right? I get it. It's 2 different states, but clearly both states had the same goal. Break them. I mean, it's clear both states had the same goal. Break them. I mean, financially, they tried to break them with the E. Jean Carroll. I think their judgment was $84 million. Then with the civil trial, they were trying to make him put up the $475 million settlement, and then on top of that, put in another 10% on top of that. So they were basically trying to get him to put up about almost $500 million to $1 billion on that particular case, which is just for a bond at that. Which, they had trouble finding a bond, and then finally they went to a judge, and the judge came back and said, this is outrageous. I think 175 would be good as they try and appeal. So they're trying to break him with these cases, and as Stephen A. says, it's not working. The strategy is failing on all fronts, and they're still driving home. And we haven't heard? We really haven't heard what is so successful about the Biden administration. The biggest thing I've heard that I will give credence to is student loans. So for the people who have gotten their student loans forgiven, I get why those people might go, Biden's president is doing pretty good. Because yes, they talked about the infrastructure bill, and we all everybody. There's always a need to repair roads, repair bridges, and these sort of kind of construction projects. And it seems like, every president, we get some new funding for that. We seem like as states, we always got funding for that. So I'll give you, I can see the benefit in it. I don't necessarily see, if you're not in those industries, right? You benefit on the down end, right? Because you get a better road, so that benefits you. Yeah, I got a better road. but if you're in the industry, you're loving these bills because there's a lot of money coming down the pike through the government. So I get it, but as you'll see, I think people are upset that he had the audacity to compliment him on this particular platform, and ultimately, in their minds anyway, give some sort of pass as to it being okay to like Donald Trump. At least that seems to be the perception. Let's keep listening.
Appears to be their strategy, but I'm here to tell you it's not working. It's not working at all. And to be quite honest with you, I don't mind the fact that it's not working, because I might not be a supporter of Donald Trump, but I want him to lose the right way. I want him to lose because you have better ideas and you make your case to the American people better than he does. That's why I want him to lose. I don't want him to lose the way they're trying to make him lose, because I actually think that the case in New York City is pretty weak, if not flat out bogus. Have you remember John Edwards? Have you remember Gary Hart? Have you remembered some of the things that Clinton has gone through? Now we're going to talk about a hush money case that took place while he was running for election in 2016, but he was in office until 2020. And now here you are in 2024, months before another election, that he's the presumptive GOP nominee. And this is what you're trying to do. It's a disgrace. It's weak. It's pathetic. And somebody needs to say it. The Democrats need to come up with a better strategy.
We all can have our opinion on something, but what we cannot have are our own facts on something.
All right, so I'm going to stop that video there, but if you want to go watch it, he goes through, as you can see, the title of his video, Roland Deconstructs Stephen A. Smith. So he does about 45 minutes going through why he thinks what Stephen A. said is wrong, starting with the fact that in the hush money trial case, as they call it, the former lawyer, Michael, I think it's Albanati, was convicted of essentially the same thing that they are trying to convict Donald Trump of. And so if the lawyer is guilty, right, doesn't that make him guilty? I mean, that's where Roland is going with his argument. And then, of course, the idea that, listen, Stephen, we know you love sports, and we know you're great at sports. You might want to stay home. Well, let's take out. So this right here, Karen Hunter responded to the same clip that Roland responded to, and so I just want to really quickly just gather their first few thoughts about that clip.
It's to be their strategy, but I'm here to tell you it's not working.
Yeah.
Where's the little paid endorsement disclaimer?
See there, paid endorsement. Because he said that, now he's got a paid endorsement for Donald Trump. Even though in the clip, you heard him say, I would never vote for Donald Trump. But I do think the Democrats are being pathetic right now because they're trying to push up all these cases to break him, and yet it's not working. I'm gonna just let Karen respond, and then we'll go back.
No. 866-801-8255. Lamont King is here. Roderick Morrow is here. On his face, if we're calling strikes and we're calling a football game or basketball game, nothing wrong. For me, though, there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake. So as soon as you give to me space for there to be sympathy for a Donald J. Trump, who is in New York, in Letitia James' case, whatever, like, it's about time. How many people have been hemmed up, audited for things far less than inflating their property value to go get loans? and then had the audacity to go bankrupt 6 times, which is in many ways you're defrauding people of money that you have contracted with them to pay, and then have gone to court and said, I'm not paying you. He's done that 6 times. There's a bad character there that now you're giving nuclear codes, which he had before. Thank God there was I'm not even going to say that, we had to be sat down for a minute, that 2 of those years was like dealing with a pandemic that he tossed out the plan for.
Mm-hmm.
Too many people died that didn't have to die because the pandemic plan that was left for him, he did not use it. There was not enough.
I'm gonna stop right there. So if you go check out the end of this video, she goes on. Karen Hunter believes that if Donald Trump is allowed to become president again, that he is ultimately going to ruin the country, and basically sort of tear up all the things that we've had in place for a number of years. I truly believe, she believes, that Donald Trump will get rid of those things and provide a new platform or a new vision for the country that obviously puts him at center. But so that's kind of where her conversation is going. But getting back to this outrage, because Stephen A. dared to tell the truth. And in telling the truth, I mean, if you go back, you listen to any long conversations with Stephen A. Smith, he has made one thing clear. He thinks Donald Trump as a presidential candidate is a terrible candidate. He would never vote for Donald Trump as a candidate. He admitted that there are some Republicans he might have voted for, but at the top of the list of ones he would not, Donald Trump. So in giving an honest assessment of, number one, where the Democratic Party is right now, an honest assessment about the fact that these cases seem dedicated to destroy his campaign, not that anybody cares, they're meant to destroy his campaign, and the fact that they aren't working, how dare he say something like that in public? And then on Fox News, how, you listen to some of these comments about how he's giving a platform for people to feel sympathy for Donald Trump. How is he providing sympathy for Donald Trump when all of our eyes are watching the fact that these cases seem ridiculous? If we just look at the New York case, the whole fraud thing, they bring up witnesses who all say they did not feel defrauded by Donald Trump and they would love to do business with him again. But despite the witness testimony, based on the prosecution and the judge, he's a fraud. And then here's another thing. The one of the other thing, that caveat, right? Right after the trial, you had Kevin O'Leary running around telling anybody who would listen that the way that Donald Trump does business is exactly the way that every real estate investor does business. So they say he's the one that did it, but yet you have a man doing interview after interview after interview saying that he does the exact same thing. And what do? They simply dismiss him as a Trumper, dismiss him as if he has no idea what he's talking about. And you know what they haven't done? They haven't said they're about to bring up charges or look into or investigate Kevin O'Leary for the things that he clearly said he is doing. And you want to know why? Because they don't care about people doing it. They simply are trying to destroy Donald Trump. Even the E. Jean Carroll, when you listen to this woman speak, I don't know what he did or did not do to her back, I think it was in the 80s or something like that. I don't know what he did or didn't do to her. I can't say that. Matter of fact, I don't even think they care. But it was another opportunity to dig in. Because when you listen to her kind of talk long form, I don't know if it's the age, or I don't know if that's who she is. but it doesn't always add up, is all I'm saying. And again, I don't know if it's age or if that's who she is, but it doesn't always add up. There seems to be a piece missing. Just go back and listen to the interview with Anderson Cooper a few years back. Seems to be a piece missing. But it serves a purpose. Even the Georgia trial serves a purpose. Because, again, here's what they're hoping, right? They haven't said it, but this is the idea. The idea is that we can prove that there was election fraud on his part. And there'd be no way that after we convict him on election fraud, that anybody would consider him to be a valid presidential candidate. You can't tell me that's not the goal. And I know that there's 300 million people in this country. I guarantee you get 100 million people that agree with you on that. But I guarantee you have 100 million people that would still vote for Donald Trump. So we'll find out which 100 million wins. But to tear this man down, Stephen A. Smith, simply because he said the quiet part out loud, because we all know the truth. Every single person who's watching these trials know these trials are existing because they are trying to destroy his presidential campaign. And Stephen A. mentioned in the clip, he was naming people who did similar things, who were not on trial, who were not in jail. You know why? Because once they got caught, they bowed down, they tucked their tail in, and they went out of the spotlight. How dare this man demand the spotlight and demand to prove that he can win again after losing? Yes, they're trying to destroy this man. It's obvious. And quite frankly, I think it's obvious, too, that they don't have a real strategy to beat him. Because if you did, you'd be using it right now. You would not be hoping that these trials come up before November so that you can continue stamping your victories, if you will, when it's clear that your victories aren't stamping out the election. They're only strengthening this man. So I don't know what y'all going to do, Democrats. But y'all not going to be able to silence anybody who has a criticism for you. Not going to be able to send out your attack dogs to quell them, especially when they had their own platform. Because Stephen A. went on ahead and did his own 15-minute interview or 15-minute rant about how y'all trying to shut him up, and he refuses to shut up, and he's going to continue telling the truth. But when they say black people aren't allowed to criticize the Democratic Party, if them, right? Because there's a whole bunch of guys that are black on the internet, but none of them are Stephen A. Smith. But as you can see, Stephen A. Smith, who is a known Democrat, who is a person who will tell you from the sun to the moon he will never vote for Donald Trump, but simply because he had a criticism of the Democratic Party, because he lives in America, simply because he had the audacity to provide a reason why a black American might sympathize with a Donald Trump and what he's going through in the judicial system. The fact that they wanted to crush him and everything he has to say about what goes on in politics and tell him to stick to basketball and football tells you everything they want you to know about what they think about black folks in the Democratic Party. Shut your mouth. Say what we want you to say. And if you don't, we coming for you. when they've made that obvious, as they have with many people, Stephen A. is just the latest example. My only question is, when we gonna stop shutting up? And on that note, I'm B. Period, and I'm out.